Welcome back to Curious Now from the Center for Medical Simulation. I'm Jenny Rudolph. Today, we're going to focus on cracking the code of a central feedback conversation dilemma. How do I critique your performance without hurting your feelings? Or, as Kim Scott put it so beautifully in her book, Radical Candor, how do I become a kick ass boss without losing my soul? Commenting on other people's behavior, whether positive or negative, makes all of us squirm. And research on this suggests it is because the commentary, even if positive, spotlights the other person's behavior. Imagine I've had a dinner party, it's late, all my guests are leaving, and one guest decides to stay back and help wash the dishes. And an hour later, when the kitchen's all beautifully clean, I say, "Oh, thank you so much for staying. I felt so supported and helped. I was really dreading doing these by myself." And my friend says, "Aw, shucks, it was nothing." By which they're saying, even though I really appreciate your bringing that up, I feel embarrassed that you highlighted something about me. And I mention this because I think we forget that any commentary about the other person can often land as a little exposing or as a little intimate or as a little, how should I respond to this? I'm hoping this will be a liberating insight. At least it was for me, because it made me realize it's not just critical feedback conversations that are sometimes awkward. So, how do we help other people in feedback conversations achieve the standards we think are valuable while also holding them in high regard? And why should we care in the first place? The reason is our experience over the last 15 or more years helping people learn to have feedback conversations and debriefing conversations is that they're good at holding high standards, but they tend to then feel a sense of righteous indignation, frustration, betrayal, many of the things we've spoken of in earlier episodes when other people don't meet the standard that they hold. And they can tip into a kind of harsh, judging type of way of talking. We've also found that people are excruciatingly aware of not wanting to hurt other people's feelings. So they try to camouflage their displeasure with the fact that you didn't meet the high standard. And instead, they try to highlight how positively they think about you. The problem with this is it's usually kind of BS. Again, harking back to Kim Scott's work, she talks about it as ruinous empathy. It's a type of talking that hides the judgment about the standard and includes weasel words and guess what I'm thinking questions that usually land on the other person badly and make them feel manipulated or confused. So, this is such a normal yet excruciating dilemma of feeling like I'm BSing and hiding my true point of view if I'm too nice. And if I'm too harsh, I'm going to ruin our relationship. And this feedback conversation is going to make things worse than they already were. When I first started thinking about this, I was a doctoral student working at the Center for Medical Simulation. And I noticed that my mentor, Jeff Cooper, a leader in the patient safety movement, extolled the virtues of being open and honest about mistakes in healthcare. Otherwise, we were not going to learn, we were not going to change, we're not going to protect our patients, we wouldn't have good patient safety. And as someone who had studied nuclear power and chemical processing accidents and errors and how people learned from that, I couldn't agree more. I thought he was 100% right. And yet, I noticed that in our debriefing conversations, we worked really hard to protect the learners in the conversations from the bad news that they may have done something in the simulation that was not up to the standard. And we did a great job of gently leading them to the insight that we held, but did not want to say that they had missed the mark in some way. And as I started to try to resolve this for myself, I happened to be given the job of developing an approach for debriefing for a new instructor course. And I realized we were saying be open and honest, but we were kind of pussyfooting around and using hidden judgment to have these feedback conversations. And I realized we couldn't have it both ways. And it all came down to how squirmingly uncomfortable we felt about having a judgment, but also wanting to maintain the relationship. So that's where we want to end today, giving you a chance to clarify for yourself what exactly is that squirmingly uncomfortable situation like before you enter a feedback conversation or a debriefing conversation where you need to help influence someone's behavior. So, our workout of the week is the following. We'd like you to use something that we've sometimes called the pre think chart, and I'll describe the chart verbally. This was invented by my colleague, Janice Palaganis. And we'd like you to think about a feedback conversation, debriefing conversation, performance review, something where you need to influence someone else's behavior. And we'd like you to note two things. One, your emotions. What are you feeling about this? And just write those down if you can, put them in a little note in your phone. It's really helpful to see them. And then the other thing we'd like you to do is describe your goal or goals. Why are you even discussing this? Why are you bringing this up? And just look at the feelings and the goals and notice how they align, don't align. What do you learn about yourself by looking at those two pieces of information? So here's an example that I struggled with recently. I was in a meeting with some colleagues, and I felt, in my infinite wisdom, that the agenda was a little vague and that we didn't have a clear goal for the meeting. So later, I did want to circle back and bring it up with my colleagues who had scheduled the meeting. And how I was feeling was nervous. Like I didn't want to hurt their feelings. They're really smart. I'm sure they were trying to do something good, but ended up landing on me very badly. So I was kind of afraid, honestly, even though I have these conversations all the time. But my goal was this is precious time. We have, 4 or 5 person hours that are going to get used up in this meeting. So my goal is let's make sure our future meetings have clear goals, clear outcomes. How do we all want to participate? What are they looking for in this precious synchronous time? So that's an example. When you've done your workout of the week, I'd love to hear about it. We'd love to hear about it. Please email us at curiousnow@harvardmedsim.org, or even better, wherever you find us, the Center for Medical Simulation on social media, send us a little video, send us a little message. We'd love to hear what you did. I'm very curious now about what that will be.